We're on?
We're live.
All right,
Nice.
cool. We should have just done it like we were in the middle of a conversation, you know?
Right.
Those are the best kind of podcasts.
Yeah, they just start in the middle. Yeah.
Oh, wow. You know, like Chris Williamson. None of this intro crap.
Who does intros
Who does
anymore?
intros or whatever?
That's not interesting.
Hey, guys. I'm Greg, and I'm here with... I'm going to tell this story again for like the 50th time.
Hey, do it.
Maybe the last time.
Do it.
Here with Griffin from the channel Film Speak.
My God, I'm not used to the fanfare like that. Holy shit. Wow, we're going in. All right.
I'm
Fuck yeah.
a huge fan of certain video essay channels. Film Speak, I was already a really big fan of. And the way we met, I was at the Superman premiere, and he was a +1 to can you say your friend's name?
Yeah, Sharonda Williams. She runs the Pairweight channel, which you should also check out because she's great. She does the best interviews.
That she does. She's a good interviewer.
Yeah.
Dude, Pairweight is rad. I can vouch for that.
Yes, there you go.
I'm a fan.
There you go,
cool.
John.
Hey, there we go.
This isn't about her. We're talking about me and Griffin right now. Before we talk about the Batman 2, X-Men, Avengers, Doomsday trailer, and Star Wars the news. Yep, I just want to make sure you guys know what we're going to talk about today.
Yep.
But I'll tell you first how we met. So we were discussing, because he'd already seen Superman. I'd already seen Superman, but we were fortunate enough to be at the premiere. I didn't know I was talking with Film Speak just yet, though. Like, he didn't say, like, I'm Griffin. I have a channel, Film Speak, you know?
Yeah, I tend not to do that, and I probably should do that more.
It would help you out a lot out here, man. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
And as we were talking, I had to stop in the middle of it because I started thinking, like, this guy sounds a lot like Film Speak. And I've never said this to anyone in my life. I just stopped in the middle of the conversation. I'm sorry, man. I recognize your voice. And then your friend said he's hit Film Center before she said, "Your Film Speak," right? Yeah. And I was freaking out because, like, I literally showed him, like, I was just listening. Like, you look at my history, you're right here. And then we didn't, like, do the thing that most people do. Like, we should collab, bro. We didn't do that.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Instead, I hit him up and I was just real with him. I was like, you know, I feel like we could be friends. I already have a weird parasocial relationship with you. Let's make this real.
We're on track.
God damn.
And then we hung out and we went we were supposed to go to lunch for like an hour. And then we ended up like being there for like 3 hours, just chatting about life.
Yeah.
And eventually I went on your channel, did a Peacemaker talk. And now you're here.
Yeah.
Koi's out of town. So I said, let's bring in someone else who can be very contrarian to the Avengers Doomsday hype.
I actually don't know where Koi stands on this.
It's very much like your opinion, but more positive swaying on the X-Men side.
Yeah, I feel like that's most people at this point, and I'm just kind of like, it's all the same to me.
Yeah. Well, this is why I love like talking with you, and a big part of it is like even. It's possible to follow channels where you don't agree with their opinion a lot of the time. Believe it or not. It's
shocking.
Thing. Yeah.
Shocking. Yeah.
I just love hearing your takes on things. I love having the discussion about it. Like I'm not here to like fight with you on stuff.
Yeah.
So we won't do that first, you know. Let's not do the X-Men trailer first.
Okay. All right, save it for later.
Because the thing I was messaging Griffin about, because we almost didn't do this today, is we have to talk. I really want to talk about the Batman Part 2.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, let's do it.
You're a big DC fan.
Yeah.
And I know at the time of shooting this, you already have a script ready for your next video.
Oh yeah, I've got to pull it up. I'm gonna read it right now.
Just read the whole thing. Yeah.
No, I'm just
exclusive
kidding.
essay.
Yeah, exclusive essay. Yeah. No, of course. The Sebastian Stan casting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Don't rely too much on your text. Make eye contact with me. Connect with me, Griffin.
I was looking at you this whole time.
So what's the news on it? What's the big news this week?
Just Sebastian Stan was cast or potentially cast in talks for the Batman Part 2.
That's right.
Right? Yeah.
How I don't know your feelings. I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah,
as Harvey Dent, right? As Two-Face.
Well, that's like the prevailing theory. Yeah, my take is probably going to be weird because I like it. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think he would be a very good Harvey Dent. But I'm just kind of tired of the long Halloween. Can we adapt literally anything else for any Batman story? And especially because like The Dark Knight also took a lot from the long Halloween. Granted, it isn't like the most faithful adaptation So there's like stuff for Reeves is the Batman Part 2 to take in and take into account, and adapt primarily like the Gilda Dent stuff that it's looking like it's going to do, because that's what Scarlett Johansson is presumably playing. I don't even know if it was presumably. At last I checked, it was presumably, but it might be confirmed. She's playing Gilda Dent in the film.
Do you want to explain a little bit about who Gilda Dent is?
Well, yeah. So if you know like The Long Halloween, she's the holiday killer in that. It's like she's Harvey Dent's wife, and she basically like goes out on a personal vendetta and like kills a bunch of people. And the whole story, the whole comic is about her trying to figure out, Batman working with Calendar Man to try and figure out who the holiday killer is. Calendar Man is kind of like this Hannibal Lecter like figure at the center of the story that Bruce kind of converses with. And so towards the end, it's revealed that she is the one doing all of this, and it kind of like breaks Harvey, and it leads down into the his downfall into becoming Two-Face and everything like that. So naturally, I think casting someone like Scarlett Johansson as that character makes a lot of sense. I like, as for the Sebastian Stan side of it, going back to what I was saying, I really like the casting. If he is playing Harvey Dent, my only thing is that it's one of those ones where it's like sometimes it feels too obvious. Like he plays characters that deal with duality, whether it's like the Winter Soldier, his characters from A Different Man, or even like The Apprentice. So it's like duality is clearly something that he's really interested in as an actor, and I think that's fine. Like it's cool to see actors have these ideas that they really latch onto and explore in different ways. I just don't see him playing Harvey Dent as him doing anything interesting. I was talking to one of my friends, and we were like, it's like one of those castings that like you'd see on Tumblr and be like, oh yeah, that it's like because he plays Bucky and because he's like conventionally attractive, can play like good American boy kind of thing. He could be a good Harvey Dent, and also because he has the duality side of him. So it's like it's not really an inspired piece of casting, but I think Sebastian Stan as an actor is incredibly talented, really should be utilized more in projects outside of the comic book media, movie genre, which is kind of the other thing. I wish that he was just getting away from it. Even though I know Matt Reeves, the Batman, is like elevated comic book material. It's like, it's good stuff that actors are actively chasing down. He's been in, the MCU for like over a decade at this point. Let's see him do something different. And I was excited by him doing stuff like A Different Man or The Apprentice, whereas he was really stretching his muscles as a performer. He was really getting out there and showing that he wasn't just, someone who could be in mainstream movies as like Bucky Barnes or whoever. And while I'm sure Reeves and Mattson Tomlin will, have written great material for him, it's just one of those things where it's like, I wish he would just break away a little bit more. So yeah, this was the other thing I kind of thought of. I don't know if you remember this, but when Matt Reeves first cast the Penguin, or maybe not cast, but the first person Matt Reeves was looking for the Penguin was Jonah Hill. And Jonah Hill passed on that role. And I'm really happy he passed on that role because it forced him. Yeah, he was like very obvious, and it forced him to think outside the box and get creative. And we got Colin Farrell,
the most good-looking guy.
Yeah. but he's a freak. He's a weirdo. He's like a really good character actor, and he was able to just fully transform himself and give us arguably the definitive take on the Penguin. Between the Penguin series and the Batman.
God, you're so right. Every time someone brings it, like right now, I'm like, I want to rewatch the Penguin.
Oh, dude,
like,
it's
like
so
you start
good.
talking about, like, I really want to rewatch it.
Sorry, I know,
please
man.
continue,
No, it's so true. But it's the same sort of thing with Sebastian Stan, where like Sebastian Stan feels like the Jonah Hill choice for Matt Reeves.
Sure.
And he got it. So there's not really like stretching outside. It's not really like thinking outside the box kind of thing. So I don't know. Maybe that's just like my weird reservation about it. I'm sure there's a lot of people who will disagree with me who are just like, yeah, that's perfect. He's a great actor. He should be in this universe.
Yeah.
He's great with duality. Like all the reasons that you're disagreeing with me are the reasons why Matt Reeves probably went with him, and I think is a great choice and will do a great job, and I'll get over this. But the two things that I'm a little concerned about right now are just him being very obvious, like a very obvious choice, and then also I kind of was just hoping they'd move away from the Long Halloween, taking pieces from that. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't become Two-Face at the end, but
I hope he wouldn't become Two-Face. Like, we still don't know for sure who any of these people are playing.
It's true.
For the longest time, you had a really great video on it too, where we shared exactly the same opinion. About Scarlett Johansson potentially being Andrea Beaumont, Phantasm.
I still feel like there's a way for that to happen.
Yes. If you keep him as just Harvey Dent the entire time, because I could see a narrative that forms where the third one would ultimately be Court of Owls, because so much about this is uprooting the corruption, the deep, the true roots of Gotham.
Yeah.
And if you have like this poster boy, again, being the one who does convert, but instead you do it the way Tim Burton intentionally wanted to do it, which is you have Harvey Dent just be a character, don't do it in the first film, and then eventually arc into it. That way there's a true sense of tragedy.
Yeah.
I love The Dark Knight. It is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
It is one of the best comic book movies of all time. There's still that missing part for me. I'm like, if they held off on Harvey, even though I think it's perfect for the movie, I would have felt the tragedy of losing the district attorney, everyone.
Sure.
I want the movie that sells me that I hope they don't do it. Like when you watch a good prequel where you're going, I know we were supposed to go this way with the tragic turn, but I love this so much. I'm hoping they don't do it. And I hope they can pull that off if he is indeed that. And as well as if she is Gilda Dent, I feel like that would be probably the most uninspired casting. Character, not casting.
No, I totally agree. Yeah.
Because then at that point, you would just be doing them. If you're able to just go to a comic and be like, well, it's going to be this. Similar to Winter Soldier, where the mystery of Captain America Winter Soldier, when the trailers were like, who's the Winter Soldier? Like, well, if you read the comic, it's Bucky. Everyone knows it's Bucky. And that is the exact same thing that it could be here if it's Gilda Dent. They might subvert it, and then maybe with the subversion, they might piss people off, kind of the way how. What was that one that everyone thought? Hush, the way how the Hush animated movie did a twist, and they're like, we don't want to do just the comic. So you could do a situation where you end up just upsetting people again. I feel like there is a version where it very much still she could be Andrea Beaumont based off everything Matt Reeves was. Everything Matt Reeves was saying lines up way more with that. As the villain that they haven't done yet.
Well, also to your point, the Holiday Killer isn't necessarily someone who's like that, it could be anyone, right? So
Sure.
like, why not make the Holiday Killer? Why not be Phantasm? Why not be her? I don't know if she's going to be playing Gilda or Andrea or whatever, but say she's playing Gilda Dent. Give her the backstory of Andrea Beaumont, the history with Bruce or whatever. Maybe not, but yeah, give her the history with Bruce, and then also instead of it being the Holiday Killer, make it Phantasm. I know some people are like, well, then we already know that if it's Phantasm, that it's going to be her. But I think it's a different scenario where it's like with the Long Halloween, the twist is that the Holiday Killer is Gilda Dent, and you have no idea. Whereas even with Phantasm, if you know that Andrea Beaumont is Phantasm, there's still drama between the two characters that makes it worthwhile. And for the people who haven't watched Mask of the Phantasm, there's a cool little reveal there.
Yeah, it's not really that huge of a deal if you know.
No, I don't think so.
Like when you're watching the movie, I don't know. I don't know how
this podcast.
I don't know how quickly people would catch on that, but the movie lets you in on it way before Bruce figures it out.
Oh yeah,
they make it pretty clear that the Phantasm is Andrea Beaumont.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
To me, I think it lends itself more to the emotionality more than anything else, and I think having Gilda Dent might undercut. And then I feel like you got a whole different movie with a whole different focus, and it doesn't feel anywhere near as much about Bruce Wayne at that point.
Yeah. Well, there's another thing that they could do here that I think would make the Harvey thing work a little bit more. And people have one of the things that people have been speculating with the Batman Part 2, and one of the things I think people have been wanting to see is Hush, because the film, from everything Matt Reeves has said, is going to be focusing more on Bruce Wayne, giving the Bruce Wayne persona more attention, since the last film was primarily him being Batman and learning that, or I guess vengeance, and then learning that he needs to be Batman. And then he's more than just like this person unleashing his personal issues onto criminals on the street. And so duality is always a part of a Batman story, but it seems like it's going to be really at the focus of this film. So if you have Harvey in the mix, who is also a character that embodies duality, you could give Harvey elements of Hush's backstory, specifically like
Sure,
the them being like childhood best friends. Maybe Harvey grew up in an abusive household, and that really, galvanized him and pushed him to try and make the city a better place. Whereas like with Bruce, who grew up in privilege and then experienced the worst that the city could offer, then kind of went in the other direction and started just like beating down on people for his own personal reasons. So you have these two characters that are converging in this way where it's like Bruce is going to recognize that he needs to be more than just like a vigilante in the streets. He needs to be a public face that does stuff. Whereas like Harvey, who has spent his entire life trying to right the wrongs of the city, kind of has this realization after something happens. I don't know. Maybe it's like he realizes his wife is a criminal.
Yeah.
And yeah, you should be writing this down.
You actually suddenly, to interject,
Yeah.
the thing that just hit me from what you were saying is, what if he's only just a supporting character the way Colin Farrell was, and then he's going to get his own television show on HBO as well, and he gets to be his own, really watch the morphing of that, the way we watch Penguin become.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool. I mean, they should do it. Pretty sweet stuff. Pretty cool. Didn't someone ask it? Was it Josh Horowitz who asked Reeves about this? About like, are you gonna do like a Harvey Dent kind of series or something? I can't remember if it was him or if it was someone else that asked him about that.
Jamie, can you look it up?
Oh, I want to know.
They were like, do you have any interest in doing like a Harvey Dent show or some or some sort of like crime? I have no idea.
Did he reject it? Do you recall that?
Well, no, he said that like he's interested in I from my recollection, he was interested in that character and like elements of that. But it seems like that might find its way into the Batman Part 2 unless he saves some of it for the series. So hey, I mean, maybe he could do both. Who knows?
What's kind of cool about what's happening just with our conversation, what's been happening with the Batman in total, is the speculation fun of it, the theory fun.
I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Right?
Like this is the first time in a long time I'm having fun speculating about a comic book film.
And a lot of times the speculation can feel a little bit generic, and even with some of these other movies and stuff. Like I love Superman,
Sure.
and then I love the Supergirl comic, and so I'm looking forward to the movie, despite the trailer being underwhelming to me. That first one, who knows? Maybe the second one will be like awesome as hell for me personally. Anyway, that's beside the point. It's like when we heard about Man of Tomorrow.
Sure,
we were like Brainiac, right? It's gotta be Brainiac. We're all gonna speculate Brainiac. Who else could it be? Oh, it's Brainiac. It's something like that. Just kind of seems like we speculated, we got what we wanted, and there's something that doesn't feel as a catharsis or a strongly validating. Whereas this one, we're like freaking bobbing and weaving all over the place.
I think, and this isn't a knock on James Gunn, because I've obviously really liked what he's done with the DCU, but James Gunn is an auteur who loves the comics, and he's got like a slavish devotion to the comics, even though he does kind of like change things up here and there. And obviously Superman isn't a direct adaptation of any one comic, but it does borrow heavily from comics. I think with the Batman, it's interesting because you have an auteur, and I don't doubt that Matt Reeves likes Batman comics, but he's not really from that world. He's a filmmaker first, and then like he kind of has fascinations with characters like this, and which is why I really like that he's leaned into like the noir elements of it, and he's borrowing from stuff like I don't know, like Seven or whatever like the influences were for that first film that are escaping me at the moment. But
it was a Chinatown,
right? Like other just like typical noirs that
boring typical noir.
I'm really not. I'm doing a bad job right now.
Those old time pictures.
Those black and whites, right? Yeah. I feel like a fucking ass. Talkies, right? But he was. I think similar to Christopher Nolan. His influences were more rooted in like film and whatnot versus comics, and so that makes his approach to the Batman more interesting, because he's going to take from comics, but you're like, what parts of the comics is he going to take? Like, is he, a lot of these characters could just be like composites of people that we know from the comics. The stories could be like adapting different elements of it, which is why I'm not totally against the idea of Harvey Dent being in this film. But when you got Harvey Dent, the Joker, and Batman and everything, and like Scarlett Johansson potentially playing some version of Gilda Dent character, I'm like, there's a little too many elements of here that remind me of The Long Halloween. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, though, because I know that you aren't just going to adapt that comic or part of that comic. I know you're going to do something interesting with it, but it is just like, it was one of those things where I was like a little hesitant of it. But again, going back to what I was saying about him being influenced by things other than comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing that I think makes his films really interesting, specifically the Batman and like the speculation regarding that is because he's a comic book fan, but he's like more than that. And he proved himself to be more than that before really diving into that stuff, you know.
Well, I feel like for the career pivot move to I guess the one thing I would say on the Sebastian Stan casting, because I do agree there is that feeling of, like, sometimes if it's an obvious casting, I'm totally cool with it. Like, if they had, I think Jeffrey Wright as Gordon, it's not the most obvious casting, but there's something about it. So like, yeah, that fits. But if they had said Bryan Cranston, which is like an obvious casting choice, I still would have been super excited.
Right, because these people are, these are like, these are truly exceptional actors. Like, and everyone who has played Gordon, like even like J.K. Simmons, who I also think is a kind of an obvious choice, and while he didn't have the most to do in like the Snyder films, he was a great Gordon for the material he was given. He's a great actor. You know, that's not the problem. It's just like sometimes when you think outside the box, like Gary Oldman's a great example because you look at Gary Oldman now and you're like, oh, of course he'd be great as Gordon, but before then he was a character actor who primarily played villains. Yeah, like you think of the guy from the
Professional.
The Professional. Thank you, or the guy from The Fifth Element, right? Like you don't think of anyone remotely like Jim Gordon, who is so like pure of heart, altruistic. Yeah, exactly. So, and you get arguably, I think, the best Jim Gordon that we've ever seen on screen. No offense to Jeffrey Wright, who I think is a very strong number two. So that's kind of like why I like, you know, when filmmakers are forced to think outside the box like that. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think on like a business producing level, you know, Sebastian Stan, I could see it being a good, smart pivot for him because he knows he's in the comic book world.
Sure.
A lot of his work outside of the comic book world is, like you pointed out, films that are not huge, right?
Yeah.
And like I've been weirdly raving about this show that I randomly put on last year, and I loved him in it, Pam and Tommy. I thought he was so good at
he
that.
was really good in that.
He was excellent in that show.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's such a departure. And then even that one, I like this film too, and I can never remember the title. The one he did with Pattinson and Tom Holland, not The Devil All the Time. What's it called? Is it The Devil All the Time?
The Devil.
Yeah, it's The Devil All the Time.
Yeah.
You did it.
Wow,
The Devil
good
All
for
the
you.
Time. I remember seeing, that was my first not, you know, whoa, dang. That was my
sorry.
That was my first film I'd seen of him that was not Winter Soldier, and I was like, wow, this is such a departure from what I'm used to this guy doing, which is only Winter Soldier at that moment.
Yeah.
So this is a good chance, I think, for him to show he can, even though it's obvious casting, I imagine he want to do something very, very different with it. But to your point, like Robert Pattinson's not an obvious Batman.
That's kind of the thing. It's just like, but even saying this, I think there is an interesting dynamic they could play into here, which is like Robert Pattinson is like a freak, and that's part of why he's such a great actor. He's got conventionally attractive looks, but he is a weirdo to his core. Whereas like Sebastian Stan, I think, has that weirdo inside of him. He just hasn't necessarily like brought it out. So you've got two actors, one who is kind of more in tune with their inner weirdo, and the other who is maybe trying to keep a lid on it.
Yeah.
So if you think about how that can kind of manifest in the characters, you've got Harvey Dent, who's trying to keep a lid on like what he thinks he needs to do until it eventually just explodes and he becomes Two-Face. Whereas like Batman, I think he, you know, gradually becoming in touch with like his inner weirdo actually allows him to grow and mature as a person. Yeah. So I don't know. That would be an interesting way of leveraging those personas. Obviously, I don't know either of these two people. I'm just going based off of my limited knowledge.
The thing is though, we didn't really get. Here's the part. Like Harvey Dent is obvious.
Yeah.
Two-Face is not so obvious. Like, what will the Two-Face portrayal be?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's a very big departure from a Harvey Dent. You know, like Aaron Eckhart had to kind of like, he had to mainly be Harvey Dent on the emotional side, which is the smart choice for that film.
Yeah.
To do it. But a lot of the times, Two-Face is mainly portrayed as a very different split personality, a very different person compared to just the emotional turmoil of Harvey Dent, which of course carries over into him on the psychosis side. But I feel like he would give an extremely unique approach.
I do agree.
To the Two-Face side. So I get it. On like the Harvey Dent side, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
On the Two-Face side, I go, what would that be?
Yeah, I know. I kind of would want it to be something along the lines of what we saw in the Arkham games or what we saw in, Batman the Animated Series. I think that the more they kind of draw from BTAS, I'm sorry, I said BTAS, Batman the Animated Series.
Do you get shit for that?
You're not supposed to say BTAS.
Why?
You're supposed to say Batman. I had a friend. I'm
Okay,
not even joking.
I've never heard it said that way before. but I wasn't like,
canceled.
it's like, what an asshole.
I had a friend at one point in time tell me like, hey, I know you wrote this as BTAS. Don't say BTAS in the script. Say Batman the Animated Series. And I was just gonna be like, I was like, okay.
I knew what you meant.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would assume anyone who's seen BTAS.
What a bitchy acronym.
Every time you do that, I'm going to scratch this.
Oh god.
Bitch ass, BTAS. That's what we, anyway, sorry.
No. It's
On
fine.
your BTAS.
But I think they should.
That's so silly. I've never heard that. Have you heard
BTAS?
other people say BTAS before?
Well, I write it out as BTAS, but I don't. And then I say BTAS to my friends, but like my close friends. But then I don't actually say BTAS.
You should say BTAS in your video. You people would coin it.
Dude,
thing,
I'm
man. Start saying
dude,
BTAS.
people say BTAS all the
I've
time.
never heard BTAS.
Yeah, this is a thing. I mean, you don't say it on a public forum. You know, you say Batman
What
the
is there
Animated
to be
Series.
ashamed of?
You say it in private amongst your closest friends.
Yeah, of course. I didn't even know that was. I'm like dead ass. I did not know that was a thing until I had a friend say, "Hey, just make sure in your script you say Batman the Animated Series." And I was like, "Why? Like, why can't I say BTAS?" Like, I just. You got it. There we go.
He's there the whole time.
Yeah, this is good. He's keeping on top of it.
I'm watching you.
Yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that. No. What I was saying is that I think that them borrowing from stuff like the animated series, which has like an
You wanted to say that.
yeah.
Do I say it?
One more time. Which invented characters like the films have adopted Harley Quinn. She originated in that show. People have been clamoring for like a Heart of Ice adaptation in some shape or form. That Mr. Freeze did not become a great character until that show. Phantasm was in the film that kind of kicked off the animated series and stuff like that. So. And actually, the most compelling Clayface stories are in the animated series. So, like, there is an entire just like treasure trove of material there for them to mine and dig into. And James Gunn has clearly taken that approach with Superman and like the Justice League and stuff. So, I think Batman should do the same thing, which is kind of why I want Scarlett Johansson to be Phantasm, because you're drawing from like something that isn't so obvious, something that people thought was sacred. You can't touch Phantasm, but it's like she's only been in one movie, in like a very small part in another comic. It's like that there's so much there to do with this character that I don't think we've tapped into.
Yeah, I'm 99.9% way more excited at the thought of Phantasm than.
Yeah, over Gilda Dent.
Then you say Gilda Dent, going Gilda. Oh yeah, Long Halloween.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like jog my memory there for a second.
But here's the other thing, and this would make the Long Halloween borrowing from the Harvey Dent side of that a little bit more palatable for me, is if they also brought in Robin and they had adapted the Dark Victory stuff. Which
you really want Robin. Yeah,
I do, man.
I've heard you bring him up.
Dude, you and Patrick H. Willems are out here riding.
Well, because it's like it's a character that challenges Bruce in a very interesting way. Like, think about, I think some of the best stuff in Batman Forever is Bruce kind of reconciling with his inner trauma while also bringing a child, like not a child. I mean, Chris O'Donnell's not a child in that
25-year-old child,
right? But bringing in like a kid that he can, someone that he's mentoring, and then how that forces him to reflect on the stuff that he hasn't processed. Because Robin, like Dick Grayson, Robin specifically, is positioned, if I guess mentored in the right way, to be better than Batman. He has Batman's trauma, but he doesn't let his trauma direct him, whereas I think Bruce kind of can let his trauma pull him in directions. And it's just a really interesting, parent son or pseudo son relationship dynamic that I don't think has actually been given the proper treatment on screen.
What I will say is that the argument that I hear presented with Robert Pattinson is, hey, feels like a little too young to be and a little too early in the ages of it. But when I think about all the Batman we've had, the only one that psychologically makes sense to me of a portrayal that would be, who's weird enough to take this on?
Yeah.
And it's this guy.
Also, how many years has it been since the Batman? The Batman was 21, so it's been what 4 years or so. Or by the time that film comes out, it'll have been over 5 years. Robert Pattinson is not the young Batman anymore.
Will the movie be 4 years?
I hope so. I don't think that movie should be a direct follow-up to the Batman. I think you need to address the passage of time in that film.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You don't think so?
No, I think that because of where we left off, I liked how we had the Batman one and then Penguin, which directly followed into it. It seems like they're in a very specific pocket of time that we're exploring here. I don't know how much passage of time we should on that.
Well, no, I don't mean I mean just literally the amount of years that it has taken for the Batman 2 to come to screen. That is the amount of time that should pass between those two films.
I never considered that.
Well, because Robert Pattinson, I mean, looks really good, but he's well into his 40s now. I'm pretty sure, right? I mean, I don't know how old he is.
He'll get that plastic surgery every guy and girl's getting right now.
No, I don't think he'll do that.
Get that Instagram face.
Our Pat is 39 years old.
Oh, he's 39. I actually thought he was in his 40s. Well, okay, he'll be into his 40s by the time that he's by the Batman. Well, by the time they're filming the Batman 2, he will be 40s. So I think, I don't know. Maybe maybe address the passage of time, and then you can give him the Robin that everyone wants to see.
Marlon Wayans.
Marlon Wayans.
Finally.
Holy shit.
Also, just real quick, I did find the little tidbit here.
Finally.
There was a round table interview during Penguin, and one of the interviewers asked if they were considering any sort of Harvey Dent legal series, and they gave a very coy answer, but Matt Reeves basically said that the journalist was thinking certainly in a way that our conversations have gone. So Harvey Dent legal drama of sorts could be possible.
Oh, that'd be fun.
See?
That'd be fun.
There
it could
you
be
have
the
it.
Daredevil show that never was. The one they originally wanted to do. That Kevin Feige hated and shut down. Anyway.
Let's go off script for a second. Are you excited for Born Again Season 2?
Good. We've been on script the entire time.
Well, of course. This whole thing is scripted. Come on. I have the script right in front of me.
Daredevil Born Again Season 2. Am I excited for that? It's so strange. I think it'll be so much better than Season 1. I genuinely think it will be better than Season 1. Am I as anticipatory of it? I wouldn't say I am, though. I was a massive guy on that train for Save Daredevil. I was so stoked. I was declaring him for the longest time as my favorite MCU character. He's the one I easily most identified with. Growing up Catholic and everything. He was my guy.
Yep.
And Daredevil Born Again, I don't even really think about that show. And it was there was some amazing stuff, and then there was some stuff that it was definitely the weakest of the Daredevil seasons. Yeah. And it didn't super elevate Kingpin for me. I think that's the biggest sin that the MCU has done to Kingpin is they're trying to bring him back to the Kingpin that was, but it didn't fully get there. It seemed like they were doing all the things they felt they should do to do it, but it still didn't quite sing as high as I wanted to.
Yeah.
So I'm not as excited as I want to be, yet I have faith because the episodes I did enjoy were from the guys. It's all being done by them now. The creative direction's much more clear, and I feel like they'll take notes, and they've done other MCU stuff that I've really enjoyed. So I feel like this will be a much better season. So I kind of like having my expectations a little bit lower, so that way when I go watch it, I'm really going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But Daredevil versus Kingpin, how much can we do with that?
Yeah, they're really milking that one. And then they're going to have him.
I assume you're not?
No, because I really didn't care for Born Again at all. I thought it was just an absolute mess where it was just they couldn't commit to any single idea. The best arc in that entire show was the White Tiger arc, and they actually were pretty unflinching with it. And then the rest of the show never really got to those heights. I mean, they kind of had an interesting commentary going on with police brutality and everything like that, but then that when I felt towards the end, they started to pull their punches a little bit. But I to your point, yeah, I do think that where that show ended will be like it's positioned to be a more interesting show in the second season. So I do agree with you that it'll be better than the first season. It's also one of those things where it's like, I wish this was just kind of like the second season was just like the show we were getting all along. But yeah, I don't know. Like, and then having Karen go away for like an entire like, what the fuck? Like, it was just.
Well, it was beyond just like directing it. It was all the writing issues. There's the whole overhaul they had to do for this season. There's no way there's a reality where it's going to be a smooth season.
No, not at all.
After that, and so I do think it'll be better though.
I really hope so. If it's not, I think I'm gonna check out on whatever Born Again is gonna be, because I can't just watch them like desecrate that show. Yeah. It's like I love Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock, and I love Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, and Deborah Ann Wall as Karen Page, and obviously John Bernthal as Frank Castle and all that. But I if they're not gonna treat them the same way that the Netflix show treated them in terms of just like the maturity of the writing. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's not for me.
Well, I do miss the pacing of the original series and the characterization. That's the main thing that made it amazing, was the blend of characterization motivating violence.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, they were like prestige dramas that just happened to
great dramas,
right? Yeah, deal with people who occasionally like punch bad guys and wear costumes.
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of like the cool thing about that first season of Daredevil, and actually the third season as well, is that he didn't wear the traditional costume for like a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
He was just going around as a guy in a makeshift costume, and it looked sick and it was awesome, and you felt like it being an extension of his rage and everything. Yeah. I don't know, and this show, we're just kind of missing that.
I do think that's the thing that I find the most fascinating, is how they did go super gory on that final moment where Kingpin rips that guy's face. It is one of the goriest things the Daredevil series has ever done.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, there was something that felt the underlying emotional. It's like you don't really see the guy's head getting broken in on the car smash, but that feels more disturbing for some reason.
Yeah.
Because of the emotion to it. And this is more like gory stuff. You know what I mean? Like
literally what you are describing is the difference between the two shows. The Born Again thinks that showing gratuitous violence like in a very like visible way is what the original show did. But you're right, the original show was incredibly violent, but it picked the moments when it showed, like with Daredevil,
telling of the character.
Exactly. Like when Matt was beating down on Kingpin at the end of the third season, they did not hold back from showing the gore and the violence of that moment, because it was in line with where the character's emotions were at. Whereas with Kingpin smashing the guy's head in, incredibly violent, but they don't need to show the guy's head actually getting smashed in for you to feel it. Sometimes not seeing it is more effective, because then your imagination can go wild, paired with just D'Onofrio's incredible performance. So that moment at the end of Born Again, when he just fully crushes his skull in, was so jarring and off-putting to me. I was just like, what the fuck are we doing? This is gross. It
was really gross.
It was gross, like not even like visibly gross, just like just like not moral, like obviously morally gross, but just like it was a gross over. It was I'm like losing the words. You know what I'm saying, right?
It sounds like they took
gratuitous.
A show that used to use violence in conversation with action and turned it to a show that's more about action, and then put a moment of horrific violence in. And it highlights the contrast between the two approaches, basically.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. We should just let you speak for us. That was way more articulate to me.
That is John's special gift. He's so good at he knows what someone will set up the shot and he'll do the layup. He'll do the alley-oop. He's perfect with the conversation.
Yeah, and me losing words is why I script stuff out.
I do it all the time.
But,
Your name is film speak.
We should move on to Starfighter. Let's talk about that first. Let's change it up, then we'll refresh our minds with some X-Men talk. Is that cool? Because I only have very few opinions on Starfighter. Is that what it's called? I don't even remember what it's called.
Hey, it's Star Wars. Starfighter. Why don't you get the title right?
Is it The Last Starfighter? Is it
No,
Starfighter?
that's an
Starfighter.
existing film.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
is
last-
it?
yeah.
It's just a different movie.
Oh, there's a movie called The Last Starfighter?
It's a beloved 80s movie.
Oh, is that
It's the one with the kid.
Carpenter? No, it's not Carpenter.
It's not John Carpenter.
He did Starman.
Yes, which is underrated. It's an underrated Johnny Carps.
Never seen
I've
it.
never seen it either.
Yeah.
And I've actually never seen The Last Starfighter, though I am
I
aware
didn't
of
know Lust.
its
Well,
existence.
it's a 1984 sci-fi family film.
Well, what I sent you a screenshot of what I saw of like the breakdown of what they said was happening with this Last Starfighter. I just want to get the beats on this and then go through all the beats because how are you feeling about Star Wars and the Mandalorian and Grogu?
See ya. I'm out. I don't. No, dude, I am so done on Star Wars, man.
I don't know
I'm
you.
done.
I don't know you in the Star Wars realm that well.
It's funny. Star Wars was like my favorite franchise growing up as a kid. Like I was hardcore into the prequels. I loved the original trilogy. Obviously, like my earliest childhood memory is my uncle showing me the Phantom Menace, and like I was enamored.
Really?
Yeah, and like I was enamored with Darth Maul and like all of that stuff, and like the Duel of the Fates. It was just like, whoa! I've never experienced anything like this before. It's so fucking cool. And then, yeah, I mean, like I was so hyped for The Force Awakens, came out, loved it. Yeah, it was a retread of A New Hope, but you know what? I saw what they were kind of doing with it. Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie.
Okay.
So that film, yes, thank you.
Did you watch it after Andor season 2?
No, I've been.
It's a
I
great
know,
watch, dude.
I know.
It segues. We did that. It segues perfect.
Yeah,
it's it's trippy when you're like when you finish season 2 and then
Yeah.
you watch it. I was like, I've never experienced something like that.
Yeah,
It was weird.
Well, I want to do a rewatch of both seasons and then going into.
That's the way to do it now.
Yeah,
That's the only way to do it.
yeah.
Anyway, please continue.
No. But anyways, and then The Last Jedi is a film I had like an interesting relationship with. I'm now in the camp where I firmly love that film. And I think it was really, really inspired take. And then Rise of Skywalker sucks. I didn't care for Solo either. I thought Solo was like it was kind of harmless, but it wasn't anything that I don't know.
How do you feel about the Mandalorian show?
Yeah, no, I haven't liked that show.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't even.
You didn't even like season 1 and 2?
No, which I know
wow.
is the season that everyone likes. To me, it just felt like just fluff. It was just empty calories. Like I
Oh,
wasn't.
wow.
I
I
didn't
really
really get
love
a whole.
those.
Yeah.
Not 3. I loved 1 and 2 a lot.
Yeah. So my good friend really likes those first 2 seasons. And he's a bit more lenient on the Star Wars stuff. I think he likes that more than me. But yeah. So like Mandalorian, I didn't like. Ahsoka, I didn't like. What are the other shows they had? The Acolyte, terrible.
Skeleton Crew.
It's like Trump reviewing stuff.
Yeah, so
Acolyte,
bad,
terrible.
worst thing ever. Oh yeah, Skeleton Crew is. I think because I'd been like so scorned on everything else up to that point, I went into Skeleton Crew with a really negative attitude. But then that show actually wound up winning me over, and I was like, oh, this is pretty charming.
That's the only one I haven't seen.
Yeah.
That's the only one I haven't
And
seen.
I don't think a lot of people watch that show.
I haven't
It
seen
was-
Clone Wars. I haven't seen
Oh,
Skeleton Crew.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Skeleton Crew was outside of Andor, which I already knew I was going to like, and just surpassed expectations. Skeleton Crew is the only other show I was like, cool, this is
Yeah.
good. Outside of that, yeah, no. And then just the constant, I don't know, churning of just Star Wars, the Star Wars content mill is just, I don't know, it's just lost its special appeal.
Well, you see, this is why I'm getting a little bit excited for Starfighter because as someone
Yeah.
like we have very different opinions on the Mandalorian. I would say Mandalorian season 1 is actually my favorite of the Disney era.
More than Andor?
While being like, I can see objectively that Andor is a much stronger, better written. Like everything is more powerful. But on the one
Damn.
I personally just enjoy the most,
Sure.
and feel the most just naturally entertained by. I feel like Andor, I gotta watch and I gotta be like, put my smart hat on and really pay attention.
Yeah.
And I like the feeling of just being able to sit back and get lost in the space fantasy of it all.
That's fair. Yeah.
And it has the Star Warsy things that I like,
Yeah,
it's Star Warsy, where Andor's like, let's strip away Force and all that stuff.
What if Star Wars was like your world?
Yeah.
No. I get that.
But it is like objectively way stronger. Probably, and when someone says like the best thing, I'm like, you're not wrong. It's not my favorite thing, but it's probably the best thing.
Sure.
but it's easily like right up there. Now after Mandalorian, but I'm not. I wish I was excited for Mandalorian and Grogu, but season 3 just didn't really do it for me at all. And then to hear that they had a whole plan for 4 and then they kind of truncated it down for this film is like, I don't know if that's like the right approach. The last Starfighter, or not Starfighter, that sounds like a Star Wars movie, doesn't it?
No, it does. The last Starfighter, it really does. Yeah.
But Starfighters, I haven't been that excited for. I haven't really cared. I adore Ryan Gosling. I feel like I was on the underground crew when like no one was really into Ryan Gosling. I was like
Half Nelson.
Half Nelson. That's what I'm talking about, man.
Yeah,
like
man.
Those days of Ryan Gosling, man. And I mean, I like his new era. I do kind of miss the more dramatic era of him, but I like his new era.
Yeah. And
Sean Levy, I think, makes super entertaining films. You know, I like the weird no rules tonight at the museum. I like the Adam Project is enjoyable. Free Guy I thought was great. He's done some really amazing episodes of Stranger Things. So much about like what they're putting there seems like they just want to make like an entertaining film. It doesn't really feel like the film that's important to the canon or expanding the lore and whatever. But then we were getting these reports that like Tom Cruise was visiting.
Dude, that's crazy. Yeah, I saw that.
And getting involved with getting behind the lens and picking up the camera himself for a certain shot. And Steven Spielberg visited set as well. So to get these guys who are all about the theatrical experience, and something that feels very cinematic, who are going to visit the sets of this, for some reason that got me way more excited than anything else, because it got my mind trickling, right? Like Tom Cruise has been part of Paramount, which has been really trying to like spend every dollar to try to get Netflix. And he really is a big believer in the theatrical experience as well. And when thinking about a lot of these like VOD things that they do on the release side of it, Disney's the one that actually, while they have their Disney Plus thing, Disney's the one that holds out the longest when it comes to putting things out on video on demand. Most people do 30 to 45 days. Disney does like 60 to 80 on average. So they're holding out the longest to try to get people to be in the theaters. So part of me was going, is Tom Cruise considering some type of weird departure to try to get in with Disney so he could be part of the theatrical experience more? Because Paramount only does like 30 to 45 days as well.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they do 60 depending on what they're negotiating. And the Mission Impossible franchise is like gone now. And we had similar opinions on that. And what else is his new movie looks like a character piece that he's going for.
Yeah, great. That's the most excited for a Tom Cruise project I've been in years.
So Tom Cruise, I feel like, wants to experiment and try new things. And I feel like the guy's secretly been directing all his movies since like he became a producer. Like it just seems like that's been the case with the guy, is he's very involved already behind the lens of what to do. And that's why I think he likes Christopher McQuarrie, because McQuarrie does what he wants him to do pretty much.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's something about them visiting the set. Granted, apparently, Tom Cruise said The Flash is an amazing film. I don't know if any of that's true.
We never heard him say that.
We never heard him say it. He never confirmed
and
that.
I say that as a defender of The Flash, by the way. I know everyone's going to be like, oh, your opinion's invalidated now. But it's like, I like that movie. I like that movie.
But how are you feeling as someone who loved Star Wars the most growing up?
Yeah.
Then now the Disney era's kind of ruined it for you, despite having Andor being great. Is this exciting you at all, or are you like, nah, it's still the same thing?
I'm not really a big fan of Sean Levy as a director. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's got some interesting ideas. Like, I will always love him for making Big Fat Liar in Night at the Museum, because growing up with Big Fat Liar, holy shit.
I never saw that. I didn't know he did that.
When are you doing your next reacts? You need to do it. It's Big Fat Liar, dude.
I haven't seen it either.
Oh my God.
Well, do it around Malcolm in the Middle, SEO.
Dude. Okay, first of all, that is genuinely one of the all-time great Paul Giamatti performances. It is so funny.
I just
it's
remember him being
unhinged.
blue in the trailer.
Well, yeah, he's only blue for like a section of the movie, but he's just like, he's just let off
false advertising.
Yeah, he's like, you're not blue the whole movie. Frankie Muniz, Amanda Bynes, like very like Y2K family comedy. Dude, there are just moments in that movie that are unhinged, like genuinely so funny. But then it also has like the typical Sean Levy, like overly sentimental stuff in there, and the kid and his dad and whatnot. I won't spoil it, but it's
that's like all his movies are father and son.
Yeah,
outside of Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah,
they're all like father son stories. They are.
Even that, Wolverine's like the dad to a ADD child that is Deadpool.
This is true. This is true. This is true. Oh, you know what? Actually, I liked Real Steel. Real Steel was a good movie.
Real Steel. Father-son movie. Yeah. Father Real Steel was a blast.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally great. So like
sounds like you like
no,
Sean Levy.
I hated the Adam Project. I hated Free Guy. Holy shit.
You hated Free Guy?
That movie pissed me off.
We can't meet on
That
Free
movie
Guy.
pissed me off, man.
Oh, dude. Damn.
Yeah, that was just
I was such a defender of that. I was like, I hope more people watch this. I really love that one.
Yeah, it just irked me to no end. The concept was interesting. The execution, I was like, nope. This is
fascinating.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Just IP porn. But
what's wrong with that? Anyway, sorry.
Oh my god. So it's still going. It's still going.
You got to adjust.
Let's go. So all this to say, like Sean Levy, I just don't think he has the sauce as a filmmaker, as the people say.
Do that again in close up.
The sauce. Sean Levy doesn't have the sauce as a filmmaker. Visually, he's very uninteresting, which isn't his fault. I mean, he's fine.
He does not have a visual style. I'll say, like, I wouldn't say like I see a Sean Levy style when I see.
Which you would think when you're making Star Wars, you want someone who at least has a little flair, right?
Yeah.
Like. No pun intended with J.J. Abrams there, but like J.J. Ryan, even like Gareth Edwards in Rogue One, even like Tony Gilroy with what he did, and I mean he didn't direct all those episodes, but they crafted a very Michael Clayton-esque, exactly, right. So it's like you're dealing with filmmaker. That was my biggest problem with Skeleton Crew was I thought John Watts doesn't have a visual style, but then he proved me wrong because you kind of went back to his horror roots and brought some dark like Amblin Goonies-esque imagery in there that worked for it. So, yeah, and actually, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but like that's the reason why I don't really like the Mandalorian visually is because I think Jon Favreau, very technically proficient filmmaker, is more interested in the toys and the mechanics than he really is in crafting a nice portrait.
That's fair. I suppose.
Anyways, all of this to say,
asshole.
I'm an asshole. I'm just, I know, I'm just going off on. With Sean Levy, his recent efforts, I haven't really been impressed by. I don't think he's an interesting visual storyteller. The concept kind of just feels like Mandalorian light. Just the idea of this guy who's a starfighter who I don't know if he's a bounty hunter or not, but he's like rescuing this kid and then he's going to take the kid to like this Jedi and the rumors and he's taking her to Rey or whatever. Like that's kind of the thing.
Oh, that was the thing that came out too, is that there's going to be like Jedis and lightsaber fights in this one.
Right. Yeah. So and like Matt Smith's the bad guy. How many times have we seen Matt Smith be the bad guy? God love him. He's really good at it, but it's like, okay.
But has he been a great bad guy yet?
Have you seen Morbius?
He was the best part of that movie.
Yes, he was. He knew what movie he was in. He knew what movie he was in.
Let me pull them abs up.
He's my favorite Doctor.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't watch Doctor Who, but
Yeah, he's my favorite one.
Okay, there you go. So anyways,
he plays a bad guy doctor.
He well, I was gonna say that
he's always dancing with his shirt off in that season.
That's what I've heard. He just can't keep that shirt on.
He can't keep that shirt on, man.
So maybe that's what's in store for us.
He's Damon Targaryen. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh shit! Yes, yeah.
That's pretty
true.
bad, dude.
Yeah. I guess he's a big fan of incest too. Woo, yeah. All that to say, all of those reasons are kind of why I'm not like super stoked on it. But I mean, I haven't seen a trailer, so I'm willing to be convinced. I do like the fact that it is separated from all the previous stuff, all the Disney Plus stuff and whatnot. And if they can if they can connect it to Rey in a way that shows that they're going to try and remedy the mistakes of The Rise of Skywalker and the end of the sequel trilogy, then I'm on board with that.
I like Rey.
I do too.
Have you been on Rise of the Resistance at Disneyland?
Yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun.
You know when you have like the Rey hologram pop up before you go on the ride? Every time I see her, I'm like, man, you got too much shit. every time I see her.
Hey, blame JJ for the Rise of Skywalker. That's I guess some of it happened in The Last Jedi, but primarily Rise of Skywalker.
I think the part where I would, on the hopeful counter side here, is I think the best thing he tends to excel at, even in his not so great stuff, is that father and son thing. He tends to be pretty good at.
Right.
He's a sentimental guy, like you were saying. He's got a lot of heart. I haven't really been following interviews on this. I would imagine this guy grew up on Star Wars, considering the shit I've seen in some of his movies. That seems to be like, I want to put a lightsaber fight in here. I want to do Star Wars.
Exactly.
So I feel like this will be truly a film he's making from his heart.
Yeah.
At the end of even though it's a big film, it's big IP, it's Star Wars, I think there'll be a genuine emotion to this. And that's why I'm excited for it to get back to that. I think when he nails it, he's good at getting wonder. When he nails it, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
I think Real Steel managed to find that wonder and heart.
Yeah.
I could see. I enjoyed the Adam Project, but I often have to be like, oh yeah, this is Sean Levy, I forget about that. But Night at the Museum is like a film that this has a weird ass franchise of films, but he's got that weird thing where he manages to find this like whimsy and wonder at times.
You know what? You're kind of right, and you're slowly winning me. I think maybe my issue is I don't like when he teams up with Ryan Reynolds, because then I think
that's where there's like a Ryan Reynolds is controlling the thing.
Well, yeah, there's that, because then I think the inauthenticity and like like Ryan Reynolds' whole shtick really comes to the forefront, and I think that gets really off-putting to me, and it loses a lot of its comedic effect on me. It gets exhausting after a while. But that's like an issue I have with Ryan Reynolds, not necessarily Sean Levy. So maybe Sean Levy working with Ryan Gosling in Lucasfilm, developing a project that, to your point, is like clearly something that he cares about. There is something cool about seeing like a filmmaker finally getting to play with the toys that they've wanted to play with their whole life. It's why it's why I still advocate for Christopher Nolan making a Bond film, because he's made Tenet, he's made Inception, but he hasn't done the real thing.
Those aren't real Bond films. Like, people were like, he's made his Bond film. Like, those aren't Bond films.
No, exactly. It's like it is never the same as when you actually get to play with those elements and do what you've always wanted to do as a kid with it. So, to your point, something I didn't necessarily consider. I think there is an opportunity here for us to get an enjoyable movie. I don't think Starfighter is going to be groundbreaking. I don't think it's going to turn people around on Disney Star Wars per se. But if it's a fun summer blockbuster, people can be like, oh, okay, cool. Star Wars can be entertaining now. And the fact that it's theatrical is the big thing, because I think Star Wars going to television is part of the reason that the brand has become diminished. It's been cheapened. People come to expect it on Disney Plus in a couple of months, on a week-to-week basis. And Star Wars has always been this big cinematic event, and that's missing. I think that's a big reason why Star Wars is in the position that it's at. And I get them trying to go back that way with Mandalorian and Grogu. Clearly, that's like a case where like Bob Iger's like, oh, okay, well there's a fandom for this. Let's see if they'll show up for the movie. But it's different when you're making a sequel film to a television show. There's like so many hoops there that I guess you have to kind of like go through in order to find your target audience. And so like your average person who doesn't watch the TV shows, who just watches Star Wars on the big screen, are they going to care about the Mandalorian and Grogu? Probably not. So I think that project is a mistake for sure, but I don't think that's going to be a test as to whether or not Disney Star Wars can come back. It does feel like
weird, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's almost weird that that movie is like coming out and we barely seen a trailer for it, and no one's talking about it. I hope Starfighter does not suffer from that fate.
Yeah. It is weird too, because even like there's of course a lot of people who still love Star Wars, and are still like ride or die for that thing, and I don't ever really hear about Mandalorian. It's bizarre. It's coming out in like 3 months, and
it's just the trailers haven't been good. My concern is that they're kind of gonna do what they did with that really bad animated Clone Wars movie. I mean, there's even like a Hutt child at the center of it, and granted, it's like Jeremy Allen White, but it's just
you're gonna get the full benefit of that.
Yeah. Oh boy, why did he choose to do that? He could have done any franchise. Why that? Anyways, so I'm afraid that it's just going to be a bunch of episodes stitched together, truncated like you said earlier, and it's just going to be, I don't know.
We'll see. If there's anything I love, it's being proven wrong.
Yeah,
that's my favorite thing ever.
It's true.
Anyway, guys, do you say BTAS? Your thoughts down below.
There you go. There's the sound.
Hey.
All right, here we go. Save the best for last. Something that we have talked so much about already for such a long time, and you've got your video out on it, and it's like a 40-minute video. You did like a kind of a lengthy one on it.
Was it? I can check the length of it right now if you want.
Yeah, give all the
on
analytics.
Sean Levy's directorial style.
Yeah.
You know what hit me really quick is like him and a lot of these other big directors who get these big projects. Their style is Amblin / Lucasfilm.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like Amblin-esque is their style.
Yeah.
And it would be nice if Amblin and Lucasfilm could maybe pull in some people with not only that style.
Well, again, this is why, despite what you think about The Last Jedi, it's one of the most visually interesting movies in the Star Wars canon.
Absolutely, I would agree with that. Yeah. It's fucking a cool looking movie.
Yeah, great film, great looking film too. Anyway,
Canto Bite,
the Canto Bite, baby. Hey, that's if you like the prequels, that's cool shit. I'm not gonna go into that, but the X-Men video I made was only 18 minutes.
Oh,
only.
What was like 39 minutes that I saw? Was it the Steve Rogers one?
Oh, that one was like 25.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm hung up on
He's
it.
making up video lengths.
Let's do a new chapter. X-Men. We're talking about X-Men. All right. So Avengers Doomsday, if you've been watching us for a while, I just did a top 15 most anticipated with Coy. I put Avengers Doomsday as my number 2.
Mm-hmm.
My number 1 is my number 1, and I love my number 1. But my number 2 is Avengers Doomsday for all the reasons that are either cynical or positive. I just have to see it,
wild.
I have to see this movie, and I can't stop thinking about it. I love the bob and weave conversation with it. It's like a boxing match, honestly. It's like sometimes it's like, oh shit, man, why are you doing this, Avengers? And other times like, holy shit, Avengers is doing it. It just keeps going back and forth, and like, oh, I could see why this would be good. Oh, I could see why this could be terrible, and regardless, I'm just excited to see how it's going to turn out, even though I have no real confidence in which direction it's going to go. And you have been a little bit more along the side of how, like, Coy has definitely been talking about why you haven't been super excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did listen to, I think, most of your X-Men video already, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I checked to see if your watch time. And I saw you watched it. And so I listened to your X-Men video. But what's your feelings on it right now, just to give the audience a bit of an insight here?
To be fair to the trailer, it is the best trailer they've released, for sure.
How have you been feeling about the marketing plan? Let's go there first. The 4 trailers.
At this point, it's been too tedious. It's like, okay, no one fucking cares, man. It's like, oh, here's another quick shot of a hero doing something. Here's this person meeting this person, like whatever. And it's not like that first one was really all that good either. Like the Steve Rogers one, I was like, okay, whatever. That was just like could have been an ad for like one of. It's so funny. Someone on Twitter. I think it was one of my friends. He responded and he was like, because I was trying to give it credit. I was like, oh yeah, when you watch it in a theater, you get a little bit of the feels, even though I don't really like the trailer. It's like you get why this casting was generational and it has impact. And it looks kind of visually interesting, practical sets and everything. And he's like, yeah, I don't know, man. It just looks like it was an ad for Pampers. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't know. It's like kind of true. So yeah, that one, the Thor one was great, but I would have liked it if it was like a trailer for a Thor movie, not Avengers Doomsday. But it does prove that they know how to write that character. For the X-Men one, it's weird because it's a good trailer. It again, similar to the Steve Rogers one with the casting, it proves why we haven't been able to shake these versions of the characters. It is truly generational casting with these characters.
Definitely.
And it's cool seeing, Cyclops do the optic blast. Clearly the Russos are like, we got to level up our visual game a bit. And they're like trying to kind of do Zack Snyder-ish visuals. Just, without the finesse of Snyder. But
what'd you think of the Magneto? Because the one thing that really stood out to me, I felt like no one was really talking about.
Yeah.
Because the Thor dialogue I thought was really good.
Yeah, Thor dialogue was good.
And then I really paid attention to I thought the Magneto dialogue was really good too.
Yeah, that one it could have been any random monologue that Magneto is. It felt very just generic. Like, oh, of course Magneto is saying this. This could have come from Days of Future Past or X3 or X2 or whatever. It's just
that was the thing I said during. I was like, this is so weird because this is such a good trailer. But I feel like I watched an X-Men movie trailer, and not a trailer for the X-Men being in the Avengers world.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's actually my problem with the Thor and the X-Men trailers. It's like these, and this is kind of why the marketing's been weird. It's like this. If you are someone who is not religiously following the MCU, which I guess, granted, is a very small number of people at this point, but say you're just a casual person who goes and watches tentpole films because that you enjoy going to the movies every now and then. You've watched Marvel movies enough. You watch the X-Men a bit, and you go and you watch this, and you're like, wait, I thought this was over. It's just such a disorienting trailer because you're right. It's like, oh, this feels like a trailer for something else, not Avengers Doomsday. And then you realize it's in Avengers Doomsday and you're like, what the fuck have I missed? And truthfully, you haven't missed anything. It makes no sense why these versions of the X-Men would be in this universe because they haven't laid the foundation for it. I mean, this is the problem with the movie at large, is that there's nothing built up to this point, outside of the Steve Rogers stuff, which you could say that's a continuation from Endgame, but outside of that, it's like the X-Men, this version of the X-Men said goodbye in Days of Future Past. If you wanted to bring back any X-Men crew, why not bring back the First Class crew? Yeah, that didn't get a good farewell. Their last movie was Dark Phoenix, and that was basically their X3. It was a really pitiful farewell, and everyone was like, okay, you know what? Fox X-Men is done. Let's reboot the whole thing, start anew going forward. But of course, that didn't happen. So the choice to bring back this particular version of the X-Men just feels exhausting because nothing in this trailer is anything we haven't seen this version of the X-Men do before. And it's also how many fucking times do we have to watch this version of these characters go through no pun intended, but Doomsday level stakes? I feel like every single time we've seen these guys since X3, it's been some sort of farewell tour and them fighting for on this massive scale for their existence, which I get is part of the X-Men, right? They are fighting for their right to exist alongside humanity. That is just part of the allegory. But when you're doing it on such a massive scale, after a while, it just becomes numb. So
do you think it's possibly, because I imagine they had to commit to an era, right? Because they introduced Beast, they bring back Kelsey Grammer, and that one's more, even though Nicholas Hoult had way more appearances, I think.
Right, but he's not coming back.
He's not coming back. But the Beast of Kelsey Grammer, I feel, that feels more like traditional Beast. That feels more like the Beast that you would kind of read from the comics.
But why not read? But why not just? My whole issue with this whole thing, and I've gotten a lot
bringing back the Fox characters.
Just don't even have the X-Men in this movie, or I mean, truthfully, don't even do this movie yet. Start fresh. Start at ground zero and build, or the ground floor and build up a new X-Men. This is what everyone wanted to see. I mean, it took them too long to get to the Fantastic Four, and now it's going to take us 10 more years to get a proper X-Men reboot. I know that they are doing it, and that Jake Schreier is the guy directing the film. They're going to, do a different version of the X-Men. But the problem is why are we not fast tracking that? That's the thing that's going to excite people, is a new iteration of these characters instead of just playing the same hits from the Fox X-Men that they've been playing ever since 2006. It's actually insane that we are still bringing these versions of the characters back and we're not even doing anything interesting with them. It is I mean, I obviously haven't seen the film, but based on this trailer, the vibe I'm getting is like some version of a Days of Future Past like story. Maybe they'll fight the Avengers in it. Who knows? I mean, that's a whole other issue because those two characters haven't even met. Those sets of characters haven't even met. They have no relation to one another. It doesn't actually mean anything in universe. It just means stuff to fans superficially. And that's really my problem. Is it's playing the nostalgia card over and over and over again without being interesting. It's like yes, it's cool to see James Marsden in a comic accurate Cyclops suit. But I want to see a new Cyclops in a comic accurate Cyclops suit. What
did you, if I can just ask really quick?
Yeah.
What was your feeling? I mean, there's a lot of I know your feelings on like the multiverse in general.
Yeah.
But when they did No Way Home, did you like that? When you first saw it.
Yeah, first time I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. The novelty of seeing like Toby and Andrew was like, it was a nice surprise. Even with the campy leaked pictures, it was something where I was like, oh, is it actually going to happen? I think because it was unconfirmed, I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. But I also went into that film not liking the fact that they were bringing back, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock and Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. I was like, I want to see Tom Holland fight his own versions of those characters because these characters don't mean anything to him.
Yeah.
And
how did you feel about, I guess I'm asking, how did you feel about getting the resolve on Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire? Did you feel like you got a resolve?
Initially, I was like, okay, this works. I kind of see what they're doing with it. But then the more I've sat with it, I actually felt like with the Andrew Garfield character, it was repeating something that he had already gone through in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And him being rageful and angry and stuff like that is actually the exact opposite of what Gwen wanted for him and what he understood when he was going back out there to be Spider-Man. He endured the loss and recognized and like had his pouting and like his grief and everything like that. And then he went back out there to save the kid and recognize that, like, you know what? I am Spider-Man and I need to be a hero to these people. It was such like a beautifully heroic note to end that film on. And so to then have, like, I guess the trajectory of his life be that, like, I got rageful because I didn't deal with my trauma over my dead girlfriend. It's like, we already did that. He already did that in the film. And then with Toby, I don't feel like we got enough to really be satisfying. Like, it was cool to see him there and like him be like, hey, MJ and I, we worked stuff out or whatever. Like, that was fine. But I didn't, there wasn't enough for me to be like, okay, this feels like a very satisfying, like, capstone on this character's arc or whatever.
I guess it was like because the thing that it works with too is I think it goes with the X-Men, but it also goes with Spider-Man. That's why I was bringing up Spider-Man. That we're also aware that the audiences are aware their stories were cut short. Like, there was supposed to be another Spider-Man for Toby, so we didn't get that.
Do you genuinely feel like the Fox X-Men, not the First Class crew, like the OG guys, do you really feel like their story was cut short?
I don't feel that way for Professor X.
Or Magneto or Wolverine.
Well, Magneto's, I'm trying to recall. It's been a while since I've seen the X-Men movies, but I don't recall Ian McKellen really getting his final movie. I know he's like in Days of Future Past, but he doesn't really get the closing story. Magneto doesn't get a closing tale. And Cyclops on the fan side, it is working on me on the fan side of James Marsden is perfect casting. He was perfect casting, and everyone for years has been saying they really botched him. And
they did.
So it is that redemption as people who thought he was like a perfect casting for it. And he came back in Days of Future Past, and I remember people being excited, like, oh my God, they're here. And then we never saw them again.
Right.
So the Professor X side is undoubtedly confusing as hell to me because, all right, I can get on board that we got a different one in Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And yes, there was a different time. Okay, so Logan was our timeline. So that's when Professor X should have died. Is this taking place before Logan? Or is this another different universe of X-Men characters?
You're getting into another issue that I have with it, but
I would say that the excitement for me is I cannot sit here and be like, you're wrong, Griffin. Like,
I've been told I'm wrong many times about this.
Well, no, I mean, I think you're right in terms of like narrative and storytelling. That's part of the fun I'm having with this movie.
Yeah.
Is like, yep, I already had those thoughts.
Yeah.
And then I have the other side. I have like the coexisting side of everything I'm saying about the excitement of having James Marsden back.
Yeah.
For me is, I remember the period when X-Men was coming out and like there was no Iron Man yet, but then suddenly there was an Iron Man while X-Men movies were still coming out. And there was also the Spider-Man movies, and like, but fuck, they're not in Marvel. Why can't they be there? And these are the X-Men characters that we grew up with. These are the portrayals that we grew up with, and I think to have that's why I think there was that payoff excitement of, yes, there's a narrative storytelling in the undercutting that could be with like, oh, you bring Hugh Jackman back after Logan. This though is that payoff of that wish fulfillment of we never got to see these guys play in the Avengers pool. I can't say though, like, of course it is narratively, this whole thing is a mess. Like this whole thing with Doom coming in and everything. It's all, and Robert Downey Jr., the whole thing is like a giant pivot, improv game that they've been playing to try to fix this. Of course.
Right.
Absolutely. And at this point, I'm like, I know it's coming out. So on this realm, here's where that fan side of me is excited. And I've noticed though, the weight of what I expect this movie to do is totally different than what I once expected from Marvel films.
Yeah.
My point with that is when I watched like Infinity War and Endgame, I really craved like epic storytelling. Now when I watch a lot of comic book movies, I'm like, I just kind of want to be entertained. I don't feel that way with stuff like Clayface.
Right.
Clayface,
or the Batman 2.
Or the Batman 2. Weirdly, right? Like those ones, I'm like, no, this has to be great storytelling. This has to be awesome scripts, great characterization. But now with like a Doomsday, I guess my desire for it to be an amazing film is not as strong. I'm more like, at this point, I just gotta go for like an entertaining, solid time,
Isn't that sad though?
Of course it's sad. It speaks to a larger problem. It speaks to a much bigger problem.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying about fucking Starfighter.
Yeah.
It's like, I just want like an entertaining, heartfelt movie,
Yeah. I guess that's the thing is just like, because I know what they're capable of doing, I don't accept that they're treating their audience with such contempt blatantly that I just I get it, like the nostalgia thing is cool, the what if scenario is cool, the fact that we'll get these characters interacting in a way that we never thought was possible is cool, and I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I just don't think that there was anything established to make it worthwhile. But I guess that's kind of the thing. So it's just meaningless. Like at least like I would still probably dislike it, but like at least if it was teed up, it would be like there would be something there, right? Like, something to grab onto.
Like why they're fighting Doom and everything. Like they have to do a lot of good. Sure, yeah. Like they have to do good motivation to have this like truly make sense.
Yeah.
Why are these X-Men guys doing it? And it is of course the nostalgia side, right? That's all it is, really. I think, to me that's frustrating. Because we as audience members should demand better from our entertainment. Like we should demand stories that make you fucking care about these characters. And comics are rich with that stuff. Comics, like when comics had crossovers, the crossovers were really just like a check-in point, right? Like the legwork was done in like the solo issues, or like maybe like you'd have two characters team up or whatever. But like the crossovers, something like Secret Wars, which this is building towards, while yes, is a massive story, is actually incredibly intimate because it's about Reed Richards and Dr. Doom. Mm-hmm. It's about the history of those two men that have been at the heart of Marvel Comics since the very beginning. So I just, even then, even when you get those like these like universe shattering like dilemmas going on, these like whatever, at its core, it is about
two people who have incredibly different worldviews who have been adversaries from the very beginning.
That's why Endgame's fucking great.
Exactly.
Because it's about the law. Like, I love that 5-year blip.
I do too.
The first time we saw, remember that first time you saw that shit?
Yeah.
I was like, what are we doing right now?
Yeah, no, same. I agree. That I think it might be my favorite part of that movie, to be honest with you. It's like great as the payoffs are at the end and everything. That stuff, like the leftovers kind of like vibe that you get from the first like part of that movie, it's like, whoa, we're actually dealing with this.
Yeah, that's why I love that. And that's why when they get to the fight, even though it's a different Thanos technically, it's still rewarding when there's a personal thing with the three of them, the trio of them fighting that Thanos and the fear of that, you know. So like it's I don't see how it could possibly be like live up to Infinity War and Endgame. It seems like visually they're going for a distinct thing. Visually they're trying,
which is cool. It's nice that they're trying something different.
Yeah, visually it looks cool, and it could be one of the better ones in the last couple of years, maybe.
But again, that's not saying much. I think that's just because they've just been like, you know, putting out.
As you're talking, I feel my heart being like, no, Griffin. I know what you mean, Griffin. No, I am safe here. I'm safe, like having low expectations. Because you're right. Like, of course we should expect more from our energy. That's what makes the MCU the MCU. That's why MCU stayed so strong for so long.
Yeah.
But
it's like, why do we think like they can't keep? It's like they can't keep getting away with this. It's like they can't keep thinking they can get away with this.
Costs this fucking much money.
Yeah, exactly. When Robert Downey Jr. is being paid a king's ransom and he's got his own like fucking Camelot on set, like it's just like, what the hell, man?
And like when you're bringing up the comics, like, yeah, I know, man. That's why I like when I read those, because I read certain event comics where I don't give, like, some people love event comics because they're an event comic.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And some of them I actually check out during. Like, I read the Secret Wars, not Secret Wars, fucking, my God, what was the show that people didn't like with the squirrels?
Secret Invasion.
Yeah, I got it. I read the Secret. I remember the comic name. I read Secret Invasion, and I was like, I don't really care about it. I just didn't care about it when I read the whole thing, and it felt like a chore.
Yeah.
So I know what it's like to read an event comic and not really care, and I know I'm on the minority on that opinion. There's a reason people are really excited for that. So, but I also know the feeling when you read an event comic and it's fucking gripping as shit. And you're right, especially if you're gonna take the title of Secret Wars, you gotta honor that mantle. You know, it's the way I feel about Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. What a beautiful, brilliant comic. If you're gonna be constantly shouting this out, then you gotta visually live up to it too. You know, beyond just the storytelling.
That's fair. I think that one I'm a little more less concerned about because I trust the creative team involved with that film. And like, yeah, you could say visually it looks very Guardians of the Galaxy inspired, but I also think that comic, while yes, does have a lot of fantasy influences in it, a lot of like Conan the Barbarian influences in there. The comic also kind of looks like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, the comic has a mood though, a tone. It's like a melancholic, cosmic. There's like a sadness pall over every page while being beautiful and wonder. You know, and so to just go when Guardians is like, it's lighthearted cosmic fun. You know, so that's the part of what I'm talking about.
Sure.
And I know with this, it's a completely different film, completely different conversation.
Yeah,
and I just can't help look, dude, my number one most anticipated movie is Street Fighter. Because
God damn, wow, that's crazy.
And the reason why
Holy shit.
is because there's something about it where I just keep watching that trailer over and over again.
Why?
Why not?
No, let me clarify. I don't think it'll be my favorite movie of the year.
Right.
Like my favorite movie of the year of 2025 is like no one's favorite movie of the year. But it's not a blockbuster. It's Eddington. I fucking love Eddington.
Yeah, I love Eddington too. Yeah, it's a great film.
Absolutely love that film. And for all, like a lot of the reasons why people hate it are a lot of the reasons why I love that movie.
Yeah.
So by any stretch, I'm not like Street Fighter is going to be. I highly doubt that'll even be like one of my top 10 favorite movies of the year.
Yeah.
But there's something on the entertainment side that I'm just looking forward to, and I'm at that weird stage in life where, as usually my favorite movies are the ones that are deeper and more thought-provoking and create a conversation. Those tend to be my favorite movies, the ones that are psychologically rich. But in terms of anticipation of a lot of times, it's just like I just want the entertainment sometimes now.
You know what? That's fair, and I can't fault. I don't fault anyone for being excited for this film. If it makes you happy, then that's really all that matters. I mean, like, the world is shitty enough as it is. If you want to go watch the 2000 X-Men run around and fight the Avengers, like, more power to, like, that's awesome.
Do you think they're gonna fight the Avengers?
I feel like there's gonna have to be some kind of, like, Avengers versus X-Men thing going on in there. Like,
that doesn't excite me. I think that'd be terrible.
yeah,
Even if it is our 2000, because it's like, we know them. Like, no, the excitement of Avengers versus X-Men is the build-up.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but I'm also not expecting any build up here. Like, to me, the reason for them fighting is solely for, like, existence. Like in the sense where it's like the Fox X-Men are in danger of, like, going away, and so they have to fight for their right to, like, live, basically, which kind of feels like it's in line with the generational thing here, where it's like the Doom is presumably taking all of, like, the kids away that mean something to the OG Avengers or the Fantastic Four or something like that, and then maybe you have the X-Men, who is this older generation that's, like, trying to I don't know, but then you risk kind of, like, making them look like the bad guys. So I don't know.
Well, I keep going back to Logan for some reason, because Deadpool and Wolverine went way out of its way to be like, hey, Fox X-Men universe, so that's all canon.
Okay, so that's the other thing. It's like, why?
Because it's less exciting if it's a different
time of your life in the credits.
Yeah, they say goodbye. They say goodbye to it
in about as finite of a way as you fucking can. And that they're like, well, but just kidding.
Well, that's the part. See, when I go back to it, I'm like, I'm excited if it is the Fox X-Men universe on that nostalgia front. But if it's not, and it's just variants in a different universe, I'm less excited. Like,
but that's I agree.
I was very I could not get on board for CGI Beast. I could not do it. So there's a lot of people that wasn't a big deal. They were just excited that it was Kelsey Grammer. The first words that came out of my mouth were, they fucking CGI. Like, I was livid at that thought. And then other people came to me saying, like, well, it's probably a different Beast character. It's probably a different, not the same one. I'm like, but the excitement is that it's the same Beast character.
Yeah, right. That's the only. So this is my other issue with it, which is they're almost like conflating two different kinds of nostalgia, which is nostalgia for the 90s X-Men series, which should be the inspiration for the next, like, version of the X-Men, not this. And then nostalgia for, like, the whatchamacallit, like the 2000s X-Men crew. They should be two different things, and yet they're, like, kind of, like, intertwining them. And so it's this weird thing where they're like exploiting people's nostalgia for the 90s X-Men stuff by, like, dropping that theme in there, by giving them more of, like, the 90s X-Men aesthetic and, like, costumes and whatnot, but with the actors from that original generation of live action. So like, you're almost telling the audience that the only people who can ever play these characters are these original actors. Doesn't really matter in live action. It's just them.
And it can be weird if we get, because, like, I get we're probably not going to get a new Wolverine for a very long time, and we probably shouldn't get a new Wolverine for a long time, because it's going to be a hard thing to live up to for whoever it is. We need distance from Hugh Jackman.
Yeah,
that was and it seems like Hugh Jackman is going to stick around for a while, considering what he was saying on that Actors on Actors interview after the success of Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, he's going to stick around.
Yeah,
He's 90.
Which is insane, because Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are actually 90 and they're still doing this. It's like,
according to Patrick Stewart, it's his last performance, which I don't know how much.
I mean, my God,
it's
that
his
poor
last performance.
Yeah.
I genuinely, I believe it. I don't. He's getting up there, and, like, just seeing him at Comic-Con sometimes, I'm like, retire,
He's
sir.
in an actual wheelchair now.
I know. It's like I don't know. That's a little frustrating. It's like, what? That's the other thing. It's like, we have old men running around in costumes. Like, what? Don't we want to see just, like, fucking new people, like, do this? Like, why is it, like, old men doing, like, it?
Cast some unknown old men, at least.
Sure. Also, it's also telling the audience that Xavier and Magneto are only old men, and that's never been the case. They've always been younger. They had to do a first-class movie to give us more comic-accurate versions of those characters.
I mean, Magneto generally is portrayed with, like, gold hair.
White and silver.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's like
Gold hair.
Solid gold hair.
But like
But I get what you mean. They're not elderly, man.
Yeah, these are like
older
geriatrics, man. Like fucking hell.
There's like young people, then there's like the teachers, like the Cyclops ages, and then there's the older people, like a Professor X. But they're not like senior citizens in the way. But then for some reason, Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen have always looked like senior citizens.
And I think that's part of the reason why. Though it's funny because they were like 70 when they first started doing this, and I think because we've always known them as these characters as old men, we're able to like stomach it a little bit more. But like they look significantly older than they did in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And Professor X is kind of, I think Patrick Stewart is like rather perfect casting though for Professor X.
He is, and there's no denying that. I think all of those guys are for perfect casting for the characters, but that doesn't mean they're the only people who can play those characters.
No, definitely not.
Like James Bond knew when to move on. Now, granted, that was partly because like Sean Connery was like, I'm fucking done. I'm going out, and you're gonna have to figure this out on your own. But like James Bond had to move on. They had to find another actor to cast in that role because the character's age stays the same. The actors age out of these parts. That's kind of the beauty of it. So like, why would you not, like, unless you're going to tell a story, like an end of life story, like a Dial of Destiny or a Logan or something like that, unless their age as an older person is part of the narrative, having them be like an old person that is, you're trying to make do the stuff that when they were younger, just feels like it doesn't really like work. But you fall into like a Kingdom of the Crystal Skull situation where I think that like, yeah, well, yes, Harrison Ford looked good for his age. They were like making old man jokes in that movie, yet we're like having him do stuff that he normally would do. So it was like it was this weird kind of like contradiction where it's like you want to address the character's age, but you're like afraid that people aren't going to want to watch this if it's not like the typical Indiana Jones that we've seen time and time again.
Well, from what we've seen, it looks like their relationship has changed, though, right? Because he's in the Xavier Mansion, Magneto.
Yeah,
and he looks wheelchair bound too by at least the way how it was coming across. Like age, he's got the long hair. He definitely. I don't know if just Ian McKellen's older now.
Sure. Did they not do that in Days of Future Past though?
I don't remember. No, he was young.
They had like a coming together in that film. The older versions of this, they had kind of like reconciled their differences and they recognized that they were like friends.
I thought it was that they had to come together, but Magneto and Professor X sometimes come together for a common enemy, but then they're back to where they were before.
Right.
And I didn't think we got the resolve, though, specifically with Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart, you know?
Fair enough, yeah. I guess
let me have this.
No, it's fine. I mean, so you brought up the ending of Days of Future Past and being like, oh, I wish they like continued the story on there. I think that was just such like a perfect end for those guys. Like they all came back. They weren't dead anymore. They fixed the mistakes of X3 and they gave them like an ending where it's like the characters will live on even if we don't see them anymore. You know, they're gonna keep fighting injustice. They're gonna keep this school alive and whatever. But like they're in a good place. And Logan lived to see that happen with the people that he cared about. So like that was. I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, we don't need to see every stage of their lives going forward. We kind of can just, like, as an audience, understand that, like, this is the end of the story, and whatever happens afterwards happens. But like in our minds, it's like they're in a good place, and that's great. I'm ready to leave here, and I don't feel like we're able to do that by continually bringing them back like this, and then putting them through the same trials that they've always been put on. Yeah, you know, it's
or we can just have fun and
that's like, hey, just have fun, man.
Because James Marsden.
Yeah, James Marsden, Cyclops.
That's what they're asking him.
Yeah, but you don't think that him in the comic accurate suit is gonna like undercut when the new guy wears the comic accurate suit for the first time? Like, wouldn't it have been great to see?
I didn't consider that.
Like, kind of like what they did with the Fantastic Four when they gave them more comic accurate suits, and it was like, whoa, that's like really cool to see these guys like finally in their environment, and there was like all the fanfare with that. Don't you want to see that with the X-Men, where we've had enough distance?
Do you feel that way about Wolverine's yellow suit?
Like, did I like it in Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah.
I didn't like the eyes. I didn't think that made a lot of sense for him. But I mean, like, what was it cool, similar to the Cyclops thing? Was it cool to see him in the yellow suit? Sure. Would I have liked them to save that for the new guy? Yeah. Like it's, I don't know. You're kind of just like, I don't know. To me, it just feels like you're undercutting the impact of when we actually do get the X-Men, which to me signals that they don't think this whole superhero thing is going to last very long.
Well, then I'll ask you about then Andrew Garfield, because I know you're a big defender of the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
They came out pretty close to the Tobey Maguire ones. Were you even though they changed the suit, it's still pretty much like the same ingredients that you kind of got to go with some different texture stuff that they do.
Do you think that basketball-looking suit was similar to the Raimi
the
suit?
Same exact kind of design.
I don't know.
Of what Spider-Man, every Spider-Man suit has to have a very similar thing, just with some little differences.
Right, but
it's the same exact thing.
Well, but I guess what I will say
red,
is like
blue with the webbing in the eyes, like it's the same exact shit.
What I will say is that I think, as opposed to the Fox X-Men and the whatever they do with these new guys, the Fox X-Men never had the comic accuracy. They were in these like the leather suits and whatever, because that was a product of that time period. And while comic purists were like, oh, this sucks, it's not the same. They're embarrassed by the legacy of the comics, and like, yeah, that might have been true, but they made it work. They took the X-Men and they adapted it and they made it their own. Spider-Man was pretty perfect from the get-go, and it nailed like the comic accuracy of that. And so you expect the next film to kind of like, I mean,
mix it up,
mix it up, or at least, but like keep that in mind. Like, we've already seen the comic accurate Spider-Man, and so the Andrew Garfield films wisely pulled from the Ultimate stuff, and that suit reflected that. Maybe not the first one. The first one was like a weird like DIY basketball looking thing, but like the suit for the Amazing Spider-Man 2 to this day is my favorite Spider-Man suit, because I think it is a perfect encapsulation of that Ultimate Spider-Man costume, like to a T.
That's a pretty sick suit. Yeah.
And it was sick. That was sick seeing that, because we had never seen that on screen before. The Tobey Maguire suit was quintessential Spider-Man, but the people like me, I don't know if this was you, but like who grew up reading Ultimate Spider-Man, which that was like my foray into Spider-Man, seeing that on the screen for the first time with a new actor, I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is everything that I would have hoped for in a series that seems to be pulling a lot from these as inspirations.
So even if they do like a comic accurate, because there's different Cyclops suits at the end of the day.
Well, this is I think that they should have done if they wanted to shake up the suit a little bit and put more yellow in it, it should have been some kind of like
hybrid
middle, some sort of
the original,
some sort of middle ground, like the Grant Morrison jackets or something like that. I've seen that like kind of float around a bit. People saying that like, it gives them a bit more of the identity that they have. But
I want the weird head thing, what's the original?
Like the diver suit almost.
Give the new guy the diver suit.
Yeah. No, totally.
Give Timothée Chalamet Cyclops the diver suit.
Oh boy.
No one's gonna be better than him. Give one of the guys from Heated Rivalry the diver suit.
Let's go. I'm all for it.
One of them's got to be in the X-Men.
I'm sure.
Anyway. Damn, this went on a lot longer than I expected it to. How long did we talk for?
I don't know. How long did we talk for?
Going on an hour and 37 minutes now.
That's actually not as long as I thought.
No, wow, no. We tend to go shorter on these.
What? Yeah.
That's because we normally do them live. We haven't been able to do them live for a while, but the lives are like, we know we have to get to like a bunch of Q&As, so let's...
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Let's keep this choppy. But no, this allows for us to deep dive in.
Nice.
No, that's a good conversation. I like talking with people with like different opinions.
Same. It's great.
Like you had all this like nuance to why you're not excited for the X-Men, and I'm like, nostalgia.
And you know what? Either way, it's fine. It doesn't. You know what? It doesn't matter.
Payoff for nostalgia for a payoff I didn't really ask for, but they're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh,
it's working on. Like Steve Rogers, like, oh yeah, fine, okay, I'm like whatever. But then with this, I'm like, oh man, that does look cool though, because I am that fan who always wanted that for James Marsden. So,
sure,
so working on that. But now the question is like, how many? Well, I guess narratively, when you do watch it, will it pay off? Because that's the thing. Yeah. When I watched Spider, I was excited. Like, oh, Spider-Man No Way Home was fucking over the moon about. Super excited. When I look back on that, I often, as I don't rewatch it regularly, when I look back on it, I forget about the villains every time.
Yeah,
I'm
which
like-
is funny
I'm
because
like, oh yeah, Doc Ock was in that
Yeah,
movie.
right, right.
But they don't stand out as like a true presence or characters outside of Willem Dafoe, who I thought was like great in it.
He was good in it. Yeah.
I thought he was he was the one who really stood out.
Yeah.
and like they led the promotion with the excitement of the villains. But you know, I do think about the Spider-Man. I don't really think about the villains and how they came across in there. But that was like such a staple of the Spider-Man movies. Was the villains.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like Lizard wasn't like the greatest. Electro obviously wasn't like the greatest for a lot of people. But you know, especially Doc Ock and Green Goblin, they were like pinnacle state. Like they're iconic for a reason.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, I just hope that's not the same feeling with this. Like, is it cool for the marketing and the anticipation for the trailer? But I hope that when we watch it, when there's a cast of like 100 people, will we ultimately will we remember what the fuck they did in this movie?
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
for real.
When there's like 100, there's literally like 100 people in this film.
Oh, I know.
You know?
I know.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that's weird about the X-Men coming back in this is, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, to my knowledge, Famke Janssen and Halle Berry are not in it.
Thank God.
I mean, fucking hell. I mean, those are like two of the best and most important characters in that in the original, you know, Fox X-Men thing. I mean, fucking God, especially Halle Berry.
Yeah.
She is Storm. So if you're gonna like do this for everyone else, why are you being selective about it?
I felt like her Storm was inconsistent.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a character where if you want to like kind of give the Cyclops treatment to, it should probably be her as well.
I think she could even lead the X-Men.
She probably should.
She could get a solo movie too. I think Storm is an incredible character.
Yeah.
The X-Men 97 reminds you of that. Like, guys, Storm is like a beast. She's not a beast, the character. She's a beast, you know.
No,
Famke Janssen and Halle Berry have both confirmed they're not in.
We don't know that.
Well,
They don't usually care to bring back the women, right? That's what they do. We don't need Kirsten
but we're gonna
Dunst
have-
and Emma Stone.
But they're bringing back Mystique in a comic accurate costume. God.
Should we get the white clothes?
Yeah, probably because they're such prudes, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, genuinely, like those. I think the cool thing about the aughts Mystique is that it was like, I mean, yes, it was they were basically like naked in the role, but I think it was a way for the character to like show a form of confidence and embrace herself in different ways. And I think it fell off with the Jennifer Lawrence stuff because she just stopped caring. But like with I forget the actual, it's Rebecca
Romaine.
Romaine, yeah, like she was so good in those movies, just with very little dialogue, just as a presence.
Yeah.
And she didn't need like the white, you know, the comic accurate stuff.
She was hot.
You like the slick
And
back
and
hair?
all that shit
Slick
you
back
said.
hair?
Yeah. Character vulnerable, character acceptance. She was hot. All right. That's what it comes down to. You do too much essaying when you talk about things.
You're thinking
You know?
too hard.
You think way too
film
much.
Speak.
We do reactions here.
Film
all right?
speak, not film
No,
think.
it's
We don't-
okay. It's
we
okay.
don't even think this hard about it.
No, it's just like, is she hot or not? It's like, yeah.
Your videos would do better if you just thought like that.
You know what? You're so right. I really should just do that.
Should Mystique have had nipples? That's the kind of videos you should have done.
We could do a whole
Let's take a
essay
poll.
deep
Let's take a
dive
poll.
on nipples in the comic book film.
It's
you know?
true. Bat nipples.
Bad nipples, man.
I was gonna say to your guys' point, the thing about Doomsday, the biggest thing seems to be that this thing needs to work like clockwork. Because No Way Home is a fascinating example. Because to me, No Way Home is a good poster child for how to get just enough things really right to overtake the fact that this is like a holy mess
Oh, yeah,
of
yeah.
circumstances and like weird mumbo jumbo. And I don't think Doomsday can survive on that.
No.
Like, I think Doomsday has to be like tight and striking.
You know, they should bring the Watcher in. If they have the Watcher and there's a narrator, that might
There
be
you
cool.
go. There
Might
you
be
go.
cool to have an actual narrator here.
I think to your point, the reason why No Way Home doesn't like collapse under the weight of everything going on is because it was following the Spider-Man identity crisis that the Far From Home left off on, and so it kind of like is working through that, and then kind of like throws that into the narrative and stuff, and then eventually the
kind of
yeah, kind of right. But they had that there. They had a foundation there.
The first like 10 minutes of the movie. Yeah.
I'm giving the movie too much credit. It's you know.
I'm like the one defending so much of that movie.
I won't defend it. Yeah.
Let me tell you what's wrong about what you just said. Though.
You know what would have been great? A movie actually dealing with that very issue.
Yeah, that would have been a sweet. I mean, that was the excitement of the cliffhanger. Like, oh my god, everyone knows his identity.
Yeah,
there's an alt world where that movie exists, and that would have been a pretty amazing movie.
Yeah,
that they still could have done they still could have eventually done the No Way Home.
Yeah, they could have.
Yeah.
They could have, because they could have. Yeah, maybe.
Just like how they could have maybe done some like Doctor Doom thing first, and then done the Doomsday movie.
I still can't get over that, man. I cannot get over that there is not a single piece of MCU media at all that has featured this character.
Yeah.
That has not featured this character.
Yeah, man. It's like the literally the announcement of Doctor Doom is the entire thesis of my experience with this whole film. Of like, holy shit, mic drop, oh my god. It followed the next day by, wait a minute, I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And then that just the back and forth of it. But what if they pull it off? That could be cool. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for coming here and
thanks for having me.
You know, bringing your honest feelings here.
I know. I'm sure people are gonna be like, "Don't bring this fucking guy back." His opinions
I wouldn't
suck.
read the comments on this one.
Oh, probably not. I don't even read the comments on my own videos.
I rarely read the comments
sometimes
on our videos now, especially if I know I'm like. That's the thing is like there's a couple of channels that like do reactions where I would say most reaction channels attract audiences that are already fans of the material that you're talking about, right? So I think for a lot of reaction channels, there's probably a pressure to be positive and lean positive because of that, you know? And that's why we don't generally lean negative. We generally don't.
Yeah.
However, we will be very positive. We'll be very, not positive, we'll be very honest. And we'll see it show up in the comments and the dislikes and everything like that. Well, we will still be very honest though, even though we're like doing our best. Because I naturally like to try to be optimistic. Naturally, like just have our fucking doomsday talk.
No, that's
it's
great.
Like, dude, I feel all the things you're saying. I've talked about all those things. But now I'm at a point where I'm just trying to like hold on to some optimism.
This is why people like you and people think that I'm a cynical asshole. You're not wrong.
The video essay guys are cynical.
I mean,
that's all you guys, and I love all you guys.
You're not wrong. We just fucking bitch and moan all the time about things that we wish were different.
Yeah, you guys are the video essay guys are normally like contrarians, and they're known as contrarians. Even though I wouldn't call you guys contrarians, I think
because it's not coming from like you're contrarian to be contrarian. It's like, I guess I happen to be contrarian about this very specific thing or whatever.
You're in the business of having unique takes.
Yeah, like it's like you'll love and defend the things that are often like not like I would say the same thing for Cosmonauts, same thing for High Top, even Patrick H. Willems. The defend and love the things that often people might not, and then you'll speak out against the things that people are probably overhyping or being overly positive about, right? Like that's a big part of it. Like it's weird. Like on the reaction community, this is what I'm aware of. Like, oh man, if I was really honest and critical about this, it's best I avoid the comments on this. Because I know we don't usually get top comments that are going to agree with the negativity that we have. Whereas like you might lead negative and you'll get top comments that agree with the negativity, you know? And it's just in our categories of what we do is what it comes from, right?
Yeah, it's like, again, similar to the Doomsday thing. People are like either just looking to be entertained or they're looking for something a bit more. And I think that you see that, I guess, in the reaction to the videos in the comments section or whatever. So
yeah. This is
I don't even know if that made sense. That didn't make sense to me, but honestly.
But that's why I like doing the podcast talks because like we really get a deep dive into the nuance. Because when I watched that X-Men trailer, I was fucking super excited when I saw it.
Truthfully, to give it its flowers, I was like, yeah, man, I like the X-Men. But it also just made me be like, man, I really wish I was getting a new X-Men movie.
So that's the Doomsday experience, though.
Yeah.
It's like with Batman 2, It is speculation and theories, and like, here's the exciting things that can happen. And with Doomsday, it is constant debating on what it is. That's what I'm seeing everywhere. So in a weird way, it's working in terms of keeping it in the conversation.
Yeah.
You know, like
Good marketing.
That's a question if it is good marketing. It's like people are aware, will it actually to ticket sales though? I don't really believe that old phrase of like all controversies like good or
all
something.
press is good press.
I don't agree with that shit. All right, like
I don't either.
Like how much just because everyone was like shitting on the Marvels didn't lead to box office sales. Like
people did not go see that.
even though people were talking about time. Acolyte, people watched so many videos shitting on Acolyte, but they didn't watch the actual Acolyte. So no, I don't agree that all press is good press. And that's the kind of the question here is like there's so much debate. There's clearly millions and millions of people who are super excited about it and millions of people who are also like really on the fence about this thing. And it's leading to a lot of conversation, a lot of debate. Now the question is, will there be a lot of people like yourself who are like, yeah, I'm on the fence. I don't really believe in this, but I'm going to see it, you know?
Well, I'm going to see it because I have a channel and need to talk about this stuff.
But what if you didn't have a channel? Would you still see it?
That's a really good question that I've kind of thought about in terms of the MCU at large. Would I still be watching any of this stuff if I didn't have a channel and like wanted to cover it?
Doomsday specifically. I imagine there's stuff you would like. I skipped out on Skeleton Crew because I just didn't care and I wasn't personally covering it here.
Yeah, that's fair. I
haven't seen like the Eyes of Wakanda show. You know?
Yeah, I haven't seen that either. I probably, if it's a zeitgeist movie where there's actually a conversation surrounding it, yes. But if it's just one of those things where it's like nostalgia porn and most people are just like, dude, this is bad, I probably wouldn't waste my time.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah, I don't know, but
well, guys,
that's just me.
Subscribe to High Top Films. It's a good channel.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, don't subscribe to me. I'm a hack. Or wait, that's his thing. He's the hack. He says he's the hack, not me.
We're all hacks. All of us. It's all just a giant cesspool of imposter syndrome and it's just lurking about.
Yeah.
All talking about BTAS.
BTAS, baby. BTAS.
Let's go. BTAS. Guys, I do love this guy a lot. I really do. As a friend first and foremost, and then I also am able to listen to your. I say it to you all the time. Like I have that weird thing where I can still listen to your videos and completely disassociate the fact that I know you and like
that's cool.
There's none of the personal thoughts of what I know about you or the guy Griffin that I know. Probably helps that you're not on. Like outside of like certain videos, most of your main videos, you're not really on camera.
Yeah,
so
I don't get sick of my face. Yeah.
I don't see your face. You know.
This way you can have your actual relationship and your social media. What's the term?
Yeah.
Social media presence or
no,
parasocial.
Parasocial.
Oh, the parasocial. Oh yeah.
Both.
The guy was still like, "Fuck you, Griffin. You and your stupid opinions. You film speak." And then I hang out with you. Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Yeah, right. Two different people. That's actually kind of the beauty of not having. I mean, I'm on camera sometimes. That's kind of the beauty of not being on camera is that it's like I don't know.
People throw 7-Eleven cups at me all the time.
Yeah, but it's not good. I will say it's not good for me professionally. I do not get a lot of opportunities because I'm not like front and like I'm on the channel. It's whatever. But I
get you.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people who weren't on camera put themselves on camera a lot more now.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I should do that.
Yeah,
probably not.
This is a good start. On the channel that attracts people who mainly want to be positive.
Yeah.
Let's bring Film Speak.
We're going to bring Film Speak positive. Holy shit. For the record, I am actually like very positive.
That's
it's just, You're
very nuanced. And I think what happens though on the internet is that if there is the side that it's not positive leaning, that's all people hear is that not positive leaning side. I understand, man.
Yeah.
You know,
no, that's true. Look, you will never find anyone who goes to bat for the Jurassic franchise.
No, man.
I fucking love those movies.
No, like that was a big part of being a fan of yours was that like their Jurassic Park I commented it on your video. I was like, you might have just convinced me to like this movie. Film that I don't really like.
Yeah. Good movie. Go rewatch it. Jurassic Park 3 and The Lost World. Two great
Lost
films.
World. Yeah, you've definitely elevated my thoughts on that film for sure.
Lost World is underrated.
It is criminally underrated. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I know I've
We're done. We got to go. I got shit to do, and Film Speak has to leave. Follow his channel. Thanks, John, for holding down the fort and doing the tech today. Yet again, my friend. Peace out, people. #BTAS.
BTAS.